evening. Welcome to the Monday, November 3rd, 2014 Jurupa Unified School District Board of Education meeting. We will start with roll call, please.
President Schmidt?
Here.
Trustee Mendez?
Here.
Trustee Chard?
Yes.
Here.
Johnson? Here. Trustee Schaefer?
Here.
Angelo Quiros?
Here.
Wendy Mendoza? Here. Javier Lopez?
Here.
Thank you. And Ms. Mendoza, would you lead us in the flag salute, please?
Please stand. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we will move to the welcome and introduce the candidates for the November 4th, 2014 Governing Board election. Mr. Duchamp.
Thank you, President Schmidt. In case nobody noticed from a few signs in the community, tomorrow is election day, so please go out and vote. It is part of a great democratic process, and it is your right and privilege. It's what makes our country great. We have two candidates running for Trustee Area 1, Mr. Robert Garcia and Mr. Brian Schaefer, City Board.
Thank you. And next we'll move to student board member comments. Mr. Duchamp.
So let's start with Angelo and that great jacket.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody. JVHS is doing very well. Our last football game is at Norte Vista this Friday. We're all very sad fall season is coming to an end. This week we have our Club Food Fest the 6th and the 7th. November 12th is our next blood drive. JVHS will be taking a trip to Cal State San Bernardino on the 7th to visit their computer graphic design program. And our fall play, David and Lisa, is this week, the 6th, 7th, and 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead with Patriot.
Okay, this past month on Patriots campus has been a hectic one, with our days leading up to the Halloween dance, which was this past Saturday. Throughout that week, we also had a spirit week leading up to our pink out game against Jurupa. It was a great game and a lot of our students turned out. This month on campus, it isn't as crazy as our previous month. This week is the final week of our canned food drive, and we're just waiting for the Spark the Book toy drive to start. This Thursday is our last home football game, and it will be a blackout game in which our students will wear black to show some school spirit. We are also getting ready for our ASP elections that will be occurring in December. All positions will be available for those who would be willing to run. In addition, our annual talent show would be on November 14th and on our welcoming drives.
Thank you, Wendy and Javier. Rubio High School.
Welcome, everybody. And every fall sport right now is in playoffs, and we're just waiting for our football team. If they win this Friday, they will be in the playoffs. And I invite everybody to come out and just support us. And this is the first time in a very long time that volleyball and our tennis team have been in the playoffs, so congrats to them. And next Friday we have a career and college exploration day, and our advisor will be extended to 40 minutes instead of our regular 23 minutes. And it's mainly for the sophomores and seniors. And we are also doing a Christmas sale right now, and ASB is just putting that on, just giving every club and sport just an opportunity to raise money for themselves. And if anybody wants to buy a Christmas tree, let me know. I'm selling it. And this Thursday is our winter sports parent night at 6, just for the upcoming winter sports. Thank you.
And thank you all. It's great to hear what's happening in our high schools. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we'll go to recognitions and recognize the SNAP Ed grant, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program Education. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. We were notified by the Riverside County Health Department that we received the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program Education, or SNAP Ed grant, from the county in the amount of $25,000 to provide nutrition education awareness.
And to recognize the Kaiser Foundation Foundation Hospital Thriving School Partnership Grant. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. This is another health and fitness grant. And the exciting part was that we actually, Kaiser contacted me and suggested that we apply for this grant because they had heard about some of the great things going on in our district with health awareness and 100 Mile Club and fitness. And so they called and asked, and we went ahead and completed the application, and we've been notified that we received the grant for the Thriving School Partnership Grant in the amount of $100,000 over 2 years. And the funds will be used to support the consumption of healthy fruits and vegetables and increased physical activity for our students.
A couple of questions. You answered one of them, and that was how we became informed or had the opportunity to apply for this grant. So that's really great. A great thing that has happened that was not expected. The questions that I have is this going to be a district-wide plan or district selected schools, or how's that going to work?
It's a combination of the two. We were asked to select 3 schools that fell within a certain demographic range and that were in the 92509 zip code. So Missionville Elementary, West Riverside Elementary, and Pedley Elementary are the primary 3 schools. But additionally, there will be work on some of the board policies and some of the things that we can implement district-wide as well. So it's a little bit of both, but there are 3 schools that are sort of primary recipients.
And is this curriculum or part of the program integrated into classroom instruction, or is that after school, before school, or other events?
Yes, yes to all. There are some healthy eating and healthy living activities and lessons that will be part of the classroom. There was some money for capital improvements, so towards the building of running tracks at those 3 elementary schools, and there are also some activities and sports that'll be around the district. So it's a kind of a wide-ranging grant. There's physical stuff and things. There's education, nutrition awareness. There's some stuff about healthy fundraising and things like that. And so it's across the spectrum.
Yes, and it's quite a significant amount of money. That's really good to see. It'd be nice to get reports as the program implementation gets underway and things begin to hopefully happen out there.
I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
All right, next we will move on to public verbal comments. And I have one, Sylvia.
I've gotten calls this weekend from parents throughout the district that are concerned with the new report cards that are coming out. I guess what they explained to me was that if they have a child that does their work all the time and gets A's, and they have a next door neighbor that doesn't do the work the same way, doesn't put as much time into doing their work, but one gets a 74 and the other one gets a 93, they're going to both get the same grade. That doesn't make sense. I mean, why are you punishing one child? Because it's like telling the ones that are working really hard getting A, don't sweat it. Even if you get a 74, you're still going to get the same grade, so don't even worry about it. That doesn't make sense. Parents are angered that their kids are giving everything they have to give, and they're not getting nothing in return to show for that, because one next door is going to get the same grade and doesn't do the work. Also, I've gotten a lot of calls from Glen Avon parents. There is a lice epidemic. You had parents here in May talking about head lice, how it was really bad. They were assured at that meeting that it would be looked into and dealt with. As of yet, it hasn't been. They are upset with the fact that even if they clean their kids' head, they're going to get infested again. They're coming back. One lady said she has spent like hundreds of dollars on the product. So that is what you're doing. If you were saying, well, they can have it, they just can't, you can't see them, and if you see them, well, you can tell the parent. Why are we not supplying the product so that the parents can make sure their kids are getting cleaned? It's not going to do no good if you have one set of parents that is spending the money to clean their kid's head and another set doesn't care. That epidemic's going around. This problem has been here for a year. do, because they came to you, you assured them it would be looked into, it would be dealt with. As of yet, it isn't. There is an epidemic there at Glen Avon that they want dealt. Also, I was told I could go to Glen Avon to check my mailbox because I was doing it on my own time. For 4 years I did this. Nobody cared until I made a complaint on behalf of a parent. Then all of a sudden I couldn't do it. I was supposed to be at my site at 2:30 to start my work. I abide by the rules. I've done what they said. However, my sub keys have to be stored in a lockbox, and the lockbox is at Glen Avon. Now, if they want me at my site at 2:30 to do my job, how is that going to be possible if I have to go and get the keys? I've asked my supervisor if they could put a lockbox at my site so that would alleviate what the district doesn't want done. As of yet, I haven't gotten no response. So they can't have it both ways. They can't tell me, you don't need to go over there to get your mail, you need to be at your site at 2:30, but yet not supply me with a lockbox so that I don't have to go down there, because I have to go before 2:30 to make sure I'm working by 2:30. I'm still going on my own time. So I would like a resolution with that. Parents from Glen Avon want a response to their issues there. And I would like a response on this report card because these parents aren't happy at all. I wish you guys would just get it into your heads that if you let the teachers do what they do best, and that is teach their way, the way they know how to teach, everything will be okay. But you got to mess with them. You got to tell them, oh, no Common Core, no, we're going to do it this way. Now we're introducing your report card. You know what? Let the teachers do their job. That's what they get paid for. Let them do it. And when the scores go up, reward them. Tell them thank you and reward them for the grades going up.
Next, we'll move on to administrative reports and written communications. With the report on the Common Core State Standards Balance Map, Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. Some of you on the board will remember a few years back, John Allen was before you and gave a little lesson on as a part of our transition to Common Core. And Mr. Allen is here again tonight. He's going to talk with you a little bit about our balance map program and sort of demonstrate some of those instructional strategies that are happening in our classrooms.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for inviting me here this evening to talk about the balance map program. And you have a blue folder in front of you. And on the left-hand side of the blue folder, there is a document that shows the different ways that the standards have changed from.
You have it on freeze.
Oh. Just keep saying, technology is my friend. Technology is my friend. So what I'm presenting to you this evening is a third grade step 1 math review. And in third grade, when you look to the students' gaps in their learning from kindergarten to first grade to second grade, you try to go back and fill in those gaps because students will come to you with holes in their learning just because that's the way it's progressed. And you do your best to go back and review some of those previously learned skills. So a third grade teacher might, depending on the students that are with them, go back and fill in the gaps in second grade number sense, for example. And so to have a really deep understanding of what it is that a third grade teacher needs to do, they need to look at the difference between how second grade used to teach addition and subtraction and how second grade now teaches addition and subtraction with the Common Core standards. So in number sense 2.0 in the past, they would estimate, calculate, and solve problems involving addition and subtraction of 2 and 3 digit numbers and find the sum or difference of 2 whole numbers up to 3 digits long. And the historical traditional way of doing that might be to stack the numbers in columns and say take 123 and add 22 and regroup if necessary, come up with 145. And we call that the standard algorithm for addition. And different cultures have different ways of doing that. And this would be the standard American way. When the Common Core authors backwards map from college and career readiness to all the way back to third grade, they looked at some of the research from the TIM study and from the NCTM, the National Council on Teaching of Mathematics research, and they saw that it was very difficult developmentally for students to memorize this standard algorithm in second and third grade. And so they decided to place the mastery of that algorithm in fourth grade and to build to that number sense in kindergarten through third grade. So now in second grade, the standard has changed to look like this: fluently add and subtract within 100, so from 100 backward, using strategies based on place value, which is ones and tens and hundreds. Properties of operations, so knowing the commutative property, the associative property, and the relationships between addition and subtraction, so how addition is the opposite of subtraction and vice versa. And so, just to kind of see what that looks like, there's a chart here. If you take a look, addition and subtraction in TK, transitional kindergarten, builds on using objects and drawings, concrete models in first grade, drawings and strategies in second grade, strategies and transitioning to the algorithm in third grade, and then finally mastery of that standard algorithm in fourth grade, where it used to be mastered in second grade. We know it's not developmentally appropriate. Now it's in fourth grade. And then something similar happens in multiplication and division. So today, given that understanding, a third grade teacher has to then go back and fill in those missing gaps in the strategies, knowing that perhaps last year students were taught the algorithm, didn't get to master it. Now we're going back in math review and filling in some of those missing strategies. So I'm going to work through math review with you in step 1 of balanced math. And if you'll play along with me, we'll do a kind of a sample demonstration of what a student might do while they're doing math review and mental math in a third grade classroom. All right, so these are the steps in that folder, and I'll refer to those in just a moment. Students in our math classes in elementary and middle school and high school all receive a notebook, basically a blank binder with paper in it, and teachers are asked to work daily to fill in student gaps in their learning. This is a sample of a pretty formalized version of that. My math review mental math notebook from Think More Elementary School. This would be Susie Sample's math review notebook. So what the teacher would do as part of their instruction to get the students ready for math review is they would have a concepts poster. And the teachers would decide, based on student needs, what concepts of mathematics and the domains of math need to be filled in. So for today's demonstration purposes, we have 2 main concepts that we're reviewing. One is addition and subtraction, that adding is really adding something more than to make it larger, and subtraction is making something less than by taking things away. One strategy of many that teachers might use is a number line. And a number line has many applications. It can show temperature, it can show movement in space along the plane. Here, we can use numbers within 100, going back to review between 30 and 50, to show how to subtract. And it's really finding the difference in the relationship between addition and subtraction in 2 numbers. So as a teacher, I would put this poster up on my wall, somewhere where the kids could access it. I'd show a number of different modeling of the strategies and show the kids how to find 45 minus 38. I could really start at 38, count up to a number that's familiar. This is called find a familiar number. And I'd count up to 40, because 40 is easy to work with. So I'd add 2 to get to 40, and then I'd add 5 more to get to 45, my starting number. When I look at those two numbers, 2 and 5 is 7, and that's the difference between 45 and 38. So that's one way that you can use addition to show the relationship between addition and subtraction on a number line, and the number line being a physical representation of the numbers. All right? The other thing I would have on my Math Review Concepts poster is being able to rearrange numbers, to regroup them, to find the sum of two numbers. So really, I know that 27 is added to 8, but 8 is really 3 and 5. So 8 can be regrouped as 3 and 5. 27 and 3 gives me a familiar number, which would be 30. And we find that 10s are easy to work with. So we have the kids work to 30, and then we bring down the 5, and we have the kids add on by 5. So 30 and 5 is 35. This would be an example of another way that students can decompose numbers or take them apart and then put them back together. And it's by doing these strategies, and there's so many different strategies in elementary school, primary grades, that show the relationship of the numbers, and we call that number sense. This would be another way that I'm showing how those numbers work. The money problem down here is something that students constantly struggle with, especially when the faces of the money change. And so we're having them review money by skip counting. That would be a strategy for counting money. So this would be a poster that would be up on my wall in the teaching classroom. In your handout, you have a sample of October 31st. They weren't in school on Friday, but this would have been the previous day's math review. And so we would keep these categories of addition and subtraction on the number line, and decomposing and recomposing numbers using this strategy. And the kids would practice this for about 2 weeks. And so this was yesterday's for your purposes today, so that you can see what Susie was doing when she was adding using a number line and subtracting using a number line, and then rearranging the 10s and the 1s to find a sum. On this side, you see her reflections, because we find that when students think about their math and write about it, they get a deeper understanding of the mathematics. And so over on the right-hand column is where Susie would be doing a reflection about what she did well and what she needs to remember tomorrow when she has the same category for each of the categories. And you can see that when she's checking her math, she's supposed to use a pen. We don't want the students erasing, because when they erase, they forget their mistakes. And that's something that we really need to train the students is circle the mistakes and go back and fix them. Now, this is a poster that would also be a support up on our wall. Our English learners have a difficult time thinking about the math and thinking about the English at the same time. So you give the English learners, and anybody else that really needs to use it, sentence frames to be able to have discussions about the math. Because one of the things we know Common Core is asking us to do is to have collaborative conversations about mathematics. And so to get the kids talking about math, we give them the words, so it's kind of a scaffold for them to be able to talk about the math. So as you begin to work, these would be words that you would use to talk to your neighbor about the math as you're doing your math review. All right? So for today, you have 2 problems to work on and a possible bonus. I'd like you to pretend to be a 3rd grade student just for a few moments right now. Use the resources that are within your packet and use your sentence starters, and you may talk to your neighbor to solve these problems. And teachers in the class, if you want to try this in your seats with your partners, if you have some paper, or even if you want to do some mental math with this, you can see how math has changed in 3rd grade from the way that we learned how to do math back in the day. Okay, so go ahead, and this would be all the direction I would give. All of this is background to right now would start my math review. So students, you have your problems. Please do problems 1, A, and B. And if you get the problem, the bonus problem, if there's time, then go ahead. And I'll allow you to work, I'd ask you to work silently for 1 to 2 minutes. I want you to struggle a little bit on your own, so you may be outside of your comfort zone. And as soon as you're done struggling, turn to your neighbor and see what they're doing to solve the math problem. And as a teacher, I'm not going to come up and look over your shoulders, but I would walk around the classroom, and it's called supervision by walking around. And I would be checking in to see who's struggling. I'd make note in my notes, my anecdotal notes, to see who I might need to pull aside later for small group instruction because they're still struggling with the math. Right.
What happens if students sample can't read?
Well, in just a moment, after the students have finished working on the math, I'm going to do something called Think Aloud. And a teacher doing the Think Aloud is a proficient mathematician showing what the thought processes are using words to describe what I'm doing and modeling up on the board. So in my Think Aloud, the students are watching me. They're checking their work to see if my work as a teacher matches their work. They're using their pen to make corrections because we don't want them to erase, we want them to remember their mistakes. And then they're also turning to their neighbor as a second scaffold because it's really strange how sometimes a teacher can say it 3 or 4 times, but they'll turn to their friend sitting right next to them, the friend will say the exact same thing. Oh, that's what you meant. Okay, now I know, because they're making a deeper connection with their peers. So the students during this time should not be silent at all. This is a time for them to work within their language ability, with their neighbor, with their partner, as the first English learner scaffold. The second, to watch me as a proficient mathematician and see how I do the math during my thing.
So, but they're not allowed to speak to their neighbors during the test, right?
At the end of the 2-week cycle, they'll do this with different problems, but within the same category of problem. They'll do this for about 2 weeks. And if I see somebody who is struggling, during my math small group time, I'll pull aside 1 or 2 English learners perhaps, or somebody who's still not getting it. And I'll do a quick, smaller group reteach, because it's hard to work with, 27 kids to try to,
Oh, yeah, teachers know that.
to try to address their individual language needs. So I'll pull aside a group of 1 or 2 or 3 of my, very beginner English learners, and I'll use, my scaffolds in English.
So what do you do to talk to English learners that still after 2 weeks aren't getting your content?
Yep. So after 2 weeks, the cycle is to pull it from the math review, and then you make it a full-on math lesson. And in a full-on math lesson, it would be, my 45 minutes of whatever it is that 80% of my students are struggling with. Because you do want to move on. You don't want to stay on number line for 3 months. Some of my kids will need smaller group instruction, so I'll pull them aside for 2 or 3 students. If 80% of my kids is still struggling or still struggling with this concept, I'll make it a full-on math lesson. And it becomes part of one of my buffer days. We have days built into the units of study to catch kids up with some of those concepts that they fall into.
And so what happens to you?
So, I think the board may also have some questions.
Oh, okay, very good. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay, so at this point, shall I continue with the demo or? Okay, very good. All right, students, please put your pencils down. And sometimes in 3rd grade, you have to say, put your pencil on the floor. So it's completely out of reach, because kids do not like to have mistakes on their paper. But we want them to have the mistakes so they can go back and redo it. Okay, students, would you please pick up your pen and follow along with me. If you put your name on the top of the paper, give yourself a star. If you put today's date on the paper, today is November 3rd, 2014. We show them many different ways to write the date. But if you did, remember to put your date on the paper, give yourself a star. If you forgot to write your name and date on the paper, which is a struggle, even in 3rd grade, they're still not putting their name and date on the paper, please circle that and remember to write that in your reflections, to remember to write your name and date on your papers every day. Okay, we're going to use our addition and subtraction number line to find the number, use the number line to find 46 minus 39. Well, I know that 46 minus 39 is between 30 and 40 on my number line. So if you wrote a 30 and your 40 on your number line, give yourself a star. Halfway between 30 and 50. Oops. If you wrote a 40 least I caught my mistake this time. Okay, now, if you wrote a 50, give yourself a star. If you wrote a 40, circle it and say, remember to write a 40 next time. Halfway between 30 and 50 is a 40. If you wrote a 40 halfway between, give yourself a star. And a blank number line, just as an aside, is a really good teaching tool. It teaches the kids spacing and lots of good ways of reading. Between 30 and 40 is 35, give yourself a star. Between 40 and 50 is 45, give yourself a star. Now, I want to make sure that I have all of my hashtags, and I'm going to count up to 39. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39 is one of the numbers that I'm working with. 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46 is one of the other numbers I'm working with. 47, 48, 49. If you wrote in all of your hash marks, please give yourself a star. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at 39. I'm going to count on to our number that is a friendly number. And our numbers with tens are friendly numbers. I've moved over one space, so I've added one. If you wrote a bump, there's no technical word for it. If you made a bump and you added one, give yourself a star. Now I'm going to count on to my target number, 46. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I see that that is 6 spaces to get to my target number. I'm adding 6. Down below, 1 plus 6, 1 plus 6 equals 7. If you added 1 and 6, the number of spaces that we move along the number line, give yourself a star. I know now that the difference between 46 and 39 is 7. If you found the answer and wrote it in the blank, the difference is 7, give yourself a star. If you checked your answer by counting backwards from 46, 45, 44, 43, 42, 41, 40, 39, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, give yourself a star. All right. And now, students, will you just to conclude, I'm sorry.
If you wrote +1, +5, +1, are you wrong?
No, because you are still getting, and you're still using the number line to reach your target.
So that is that you have a right answer. You got 7, and then are you checking as a teacher? Are you checking to see that they're doing this in a proper manner?
Right. I'm modeling for the students a number of different ways to go about going to the friendly number, counting on. Those are strategies. I'm also collecting their math journals occasionally, not every night, but I'm looking through them to see who's getting it and who's not. There's constant monitoring to make sure, and I'm also looking over their shoulders. At this point, the students would then write their reflection. And in the back of your packet are reflection starters. So if you did very, very well, you got the whole problem right, you write a reflection that says something about what you learned or what you're good at. Part of the problem, it's still hard for me to, or none of the problem, I need help with. So go ahead and write your reflection, and then I'm going to walk around and kind of see what you're doing. All right, I'm not going to go through and model the whole thing because of time, but that's what I would continue to do. And the more, and this would be possibly grade 2 or 3, but I would continue this cycle for 2 weeks. And after about 3 or 4 days, I'll look and see some of my students actually can do it and are masterful at it. They would then become the teacher and take the pen and do the think aloud just like I do. But I would have to trust them to make sure that they do. Thank you. Please, are there any questions?
Do you feel like this is taking more of your time than the old one? I mean, truthfully, as a teacher, does it take more time to do this process, or once you get it started, and that you've been doing it for a while?
Yes, yes, and yes. It definitely takes more time at the beginning. And from the claps I can hear, and we've heard that from a number of different teachers, that when you're first training kids on the process, it does take a long time. And so, ideally, you'd have between 3 and 5 categories of problems that you're filling in the gaps. But we say if it's taking too much time to teach the strategy of math review, then you only put one problem on the math review. Because you don't want your whole 50-minute block of time taken up with reviewing previous skills. You want to target the most essential skills that are necessary for them to be successful and use that. And then as they become successful with the process, add more categories.
I was going to say that the trade-off in terms of the time element is that students become much more proficient in mathematical thinking and reasoning as opposed to just memorizing that, you subtract 7 from another number you get with, say 35 instead of 42 or whatever the case might be. Whereas typically that's the way we used to teach it and learn it. I wrote pretty much, learn to mathematically manipulate the numbers and come up with an answer. And in this case, you're going beyond that and deeper and getting the students to understand the reasoning, mathematical reasoning behind why that's the case. Is that correct, Emmanuel?
That's correct. The deeper number sense. And if students have a deeper understanding of the manipulation of the numbers, they can then apply it in the algorithm and then use that algorithm, because we're still teaching the kids how to memorize their multiplication tables, their addition tables. We're still teaching them the algorithm, but when they're ready for it and when they can understand how it works and the math behind how it works. And then, knowing that, they can then apply it to problem solving, which is the ultimate goal, is to be able to look at a mathematical problem and be able to know the number sense that's needed to solve it.
Are you seeing that the children that, when they first came into the class, did not understand math? Are you seeing the light bulb come on?
Yeah, eventually. Teaching strategies-based number sense is very different. And so, as soon as they see it, they get it. And then the light bulb comes on, and then they can apply it. But it's a struggle at first.
Is it a struggle for those that are good in math already?
Right. Some kids really are mathematically inclined. Others, they need to have lots of different strategies to approach to them. And so, for those that get it right away, you give them differentiation activities, so they go on to do the bonus. On any given day, I wouldn't address the bonus except for the advanced kids who are able to do it. Or they get a different set of categories. They get 3rd or even 4th grade concepts, or even number problems where there's a problem-solving activity involving number line. So they're more advanced. They can apply the math now at a deeper level.
So then you divide the class into those that are not struggling and those that are struggling?
I would give them a pre-test at first. In the first couple of days of math review, I'm monitoring to see who's got it. Those who I know have got it, I don't hold them back. I give them more advanced concepts or deeper concepts. And then for the kids that are struggling, they stay with those masters. And we're finding if we don't teach them mastery, the gaps in their learning just become greater and greater. And when the kids get to high school, it's almost impossible to fill in some of those gaps from elementary school.
Mr. Schaefer?
So you're basically giving them an extra year before you go into the standard algorithm.
Right. So from 2nd grade, where the staffing and regrouping would have been taught in the past, and you'll still see it in some of the textbooks, even the one that is a bridge material, because in some states they still adopted they were allowed to add 15% more to their state standards from Common Core. So some states still kept the standard algorithm in 2nd grade, and so you'll still see it even in the adopted materials that are coming out. We as teachers need to realize that that's no longer a California standard, that California has decided to wait for 4th grade to put in the standards. And so the emphasis is on teaching deeper number sense and then teach the algorithm in the grade. They're given about an extra year.
And it is proven that their comprehension is better?
Yes, from the National Council of Teaching Mathematics and NCTM studies, when they looked at students not only in the United States but internationally, and they compared curriculums across the states, they found that kids just aren't ready in 2nd grade. And I would wager that 2nd grade teachers, it's been a struggle to get kids to memorize that algorithm in the past.
I want to reinforce too that as kids progress through this, they're still taught to memorize math facts. So by the time they get to 4th grade, they should know with what we call, I always get this word wrong, automaticity, that 4 times 4 is 16. And what this is averting is what I think we've seen at the end of high school, a lot of kids will go, and particularly ones that are mathematically proficient, will come up with an absurd answer to a question because they made a computational mistake without thinking through the problem. And particularly the number line, a lot of the use of number line comes from the teaching in Asian cultures, particularly Singapore math, which you may have heard of, very number line based. Because we had for so many years moved away from the concept of what numbers really are and what they mean to memorization of math facts, to the algorithms. And Mr. Lopez had to leave, but he was one who very eloquently had an opportunity to speak with the governor last year. And the governor asked him how he felt about Common Core standards. And he said, well, for those of us who are good in math, it's very difficult because now we have to explain our answers instead of just getting them. And so, if you're good at memorizing the algorithm, if you're good at the process steps, you're probably going to be very good at getting the right answer, but you may not be very good at solving or explaining how you got the right answer. And I was thinking, actually, as you were going through that, of a real-world problem that I can never figure out, is if you get carpeting in your house, you'll have a room that's so many square feet, and it always is more yards than the square footage, unless your room is divisible by 9, right? Or what is it, 12 feet in a roll of carpet. So if your room isn't divisible by 12, it's going to take more yards than the number of square feet. Well, that's it's not an easy problem, but it's one that's much more easily solved by looking at the groupings of numbers within there. So what we're trying to do is really help kids with the kinds of problems they're going to be dealing with in life. And if you think about almost any job now, whether you're a mechanic trying to figure out how much oil to put in a car because it may be different than a standard 4 quarts or a carpet layer or a tile layer, to somebody's sending the space shuttle up in the air like Linda's brother. You're dealing with real-world mathematical problems that aren't solved by simple algorithms. I need to learn vocabulary. Thank you, Mr.
If I may, Madam President, one other question. The students that are having difficulty in middle school and high school, how can we go back, or how can they go back and learn some of this methodology to help them so they don't have to take remedial math for college?
Right. It's part of our number sense and in balanced math step 2 right now. We're looking at building teacher capacity for filling in some of these gaps, and so we've provided them on our website with categories of mathematics that go all the way back to kindergarten, so a secondary teacher could have access to that. It's a struggle. It's a struggle for secondary teachers, but looking at small group instruction, looking at repeated repetition of the concept, and then it's a team effort through the grade levels to make sure the kids get to the mastery level before they move on.
And I want to add, too, that this is new and constantly changing, and hopefully will address one of the key problems is algebra, for example, has been a key passage for students both to get to college and high school math. It's something like 70% of kids, and this is nationally, who fail algebra one time never pass it again. And we're hoping that this kind of thinking will really make a difference when students are dealing with algebraic computations. But we have some time, and a lot of effort. We recognize it's a lot of work. I mean, I have a hard time with this. I don't know about you guys, but it's a whole new way of thinking. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And next we'll move on to the report on program improvement, CSPI Year 3 Evidence of Progress. Mr. Dubrowski.
Thank you. All school districts who are in Program Improvement Year 3, there are many of us in California, need to submit an end-of-the-year progress report, so you have that in your supporting documents. It summarizes the strategies and actions the district took last year, the 2013-14 school year. And essentially the primary areas in the report are the implementation of the core curriculum, language arts and ELD, math, and intervention programs, staff development around the Common Core State Standards implementation, assessment alignments, instructional technology, and class size reduction support. And this is informational.
Thank you. Yes.
It was very interesting, this math demonstration, because the numbers reported in this report show that our math, our students basically district-wide are we're about 55% proficient in math. So it is important to keep an eye on the high school students, helping them as much as possible to improve their math scores.
All right, item C is the report on the language census report R30. Mr. Dubrowski.
Thank you. Each year the district conducts a language census report, which is known by the acronym R30. And Mrs. Gomez is here tonight to provide you a little information about the results of that report.
Our third report for the 2014 school year, and we do this report required by Ed Code 62002 and also by federal law. We have selected education data on a yearly basis. It used to be on March 1st. Last year it changed to October 2nd, so this is our second year doing it in the fall. It collects two types of information: student languages and programs that we give to them, and also staff that provide the services to them, making sure that they have the required certifications or authorizations to work with English learners. This year we have 7,217 English learners in our district. We have 3,885 proficient students, which means they could have been initially proficient or they could have been reclassified. So adding those two numbers together, we have about 12,000 students in our district that either are in the process of being bilingual, are bilingual, or have parents in the home who speak another language. And we also have in our district 19 languages right now. Spanish being number one, about 7,100. And then we have Vietnamese, I believe is the third language. And let's see, I think I have the second language. Yes, Punjabi. Punjabi we have 29 students, and Vietnamese 13 students. We reclassified this year 489 students, about close to 7%, and that seems to be our average for the district. The required programs for English learners is structured English immersion, and we place our English learners who are levels 1, 2, and 3 in that program. We place in English language mainstream is the other required program, and we place our 4s and 5s. And then the alternative course of study that we have here is our dual immersion program, and any student can go into that program at any level, plus we have our English only students. We have 77 paraprofessionals who provide services to our students, and we have 795 teachers, and in our district every teacher is authorized to work with English learners. And that's pretty much that. If you have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you for your report. Next, we move on to item D, the CSBA Delegate Assembly nominations. Mr. Duchamp.
Well, just when you thought elections were over, it's time for more elections. So we have several seats up in Jurupa is in sub-region 18 Riverside, and terms are expiring for Robin Christ and Murrieta, Bruce Dennis, Riverside County Office, Memo Mendez and Ruby Unified, Bill Newberry, Corona Norco, John Norman in San Jacinto, Sandra Toussaint in Romoland, and Tracy Backer in Reno Valley. That's all it says, but I think we have to, the sketches are in your area, so we will have to fill out ballots.
And we have until Wednesday, January 7th.
So I'm sure there will be active campaigning, lots of signs around it.
I don't think so.
Not for these elections.
And there are no other administrative reports.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to item A in the action session to approve routine action items by consent with one correction on item number 7. Instead of Environmental Protection Services Incorporated, it should read Victor USA.
Make a motion to approve routine action items by consent.
Have a motion from Mr. Schaefer
Second.
and a second from Mr. Mendez. All those in favor, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Chard?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
President Schmidt?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Item B is to approve the purchase of the Dell Optiplex 7020 standard desktop computers. Mrs. Ford.
As part of the district's ongoing computer replacement cycle, administration is requesting approval to purchase 35 Dell Optiplex 720 desktop computers and monitors to replace 6-plus-year-old office computers. Our pricing is based on the WISCA piggyback agreement, and the purchase will be funded through special reserve capital outlay funds.
Move to approve as recommended. Have a motion from Mrs. Johnston.
Second.
A second from Mrs. Chard. Questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Chard?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
President Schmidt?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Item C, approve purchase of the Duplo machines for Jurupa Middle School. Mrs. Ford.
Make a motion to approve purchase of Duplo machines for Blue Middle School.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, a second by Mrs. Chard. Questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Chard?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
President Schmidt?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Item D, approve purchase of Hewlett-Packard ProBook 640 notebooks. Mrs. Ford.
Make a motion to approve purchase of the Hewlett-Packard ProBook 640 notebooks.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, a second by Mrs. Johnston. Questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Chard?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
President Schmidt?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Item E, act on student discipline cases. We have 3 expulsion, suspended expulsion cases, agreement and stipulation. They are case 15-010, 15-013, and 15-014.
Make a motion to approve discipline cases number 15-010, 15-013, yes, and 15-014.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Mendez, a second by Mrs. Johnston. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Chard?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
President Schmidt?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Next, we have denied admission, suspended expulsion case. We have 1, 15-011.
Make a motion to deny admission to suspended expulsion case number 15-011.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Mendez, a second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Chard?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
motion passes 5-0. And last, we have a denied readmission, suspended expulsion case. We have one, and it's 12-015.
Make a motion to deny readmission to suspended expulsion case number 12-015.
Second. Have a motion by Mr. Mendez, a second by Mrs. Johnston. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Chart?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
President Schmidt?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Item F is board member comments and committee reports. We'll start with Mrs. Johnston.
Good evening. I have to say that in regard to Sylvia's comments, I had the same question on the grading system, because you can have a 93 to a 74 and you would be in the same grade on the number system. And I thought when I reviewed the number system that it would work better with another number, having 5 to 1 instead of 4 to 1. However, I thought maybe the kindergarten through 3rd grade might be more appropriate, the one that we use. It gives the younger kids an advantage, but my thinking was the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders are going to be moving in, when they move into middle school, it's going to be a little more, it's going to be stiffer grading, because then you're going back to letter grades, and so you really want to prepare your 6th graders for middle school. So anyway, that was my thinking also on the grading system, and let me see, is there anything else? Also, I would like to know in a reporting next month if there's any input from teachers in regard to the grading this time, because I know the grades just came in for elementary, and if they had any comments from parents and how, what everybody thinks of that system.
I'd be happy to provide that at the next meeting.
We can do an overview of the grading system, because just really quickly, the percentages were an afterthought, and it's not burning a grade anymore. The idea is referencing whether a student has, in fact, it goes back to Mr. Schaefer's comment about 55% of kids proficient. We're concerned with the proficiency level of the student, not the number grade. So it doesn't all add up to the number grade. So we're working on it, and I think you also were working with the report card committee. So we could do a more in-depth report if the board would like that on the report card.
Yeah, the committee will be meeting again next week, so at our next meeting I could give you an update and a little bit of an overview as well.
Mrs. Chart.
Well, I want to thank Mr. Allen for giving us a math lesson. It's been a while since I've had one, and it was very enlightening tonight, let me tell you. I want to see more, though, on the junior high and the high school, how we're doing later on. I'd like to see how we're working with those students, because they're the ones that we're going to have to be more concerned with. They have a little more time to work with the elementary, but not with the ones that are getting out of high school and the ones that are going into high school. They're the ones that are struggling, I know now. We'll be looking forward to something later on. I'm not asking for right away, but later on in the year. And I know this is our first year on doing this, I guess, so. I was glad to see the high school students give a little more information tonight. It seems like the last few times they've been coming, it's about one sentence. And I'm glad to hear them talking more about their high school, giving a little better report. They do a good job, I know, and I know that the community doesn't really know all the things. I go to the football games at Rubidoux because that's where I graduated. So, but I'd like to know a little bit more about what's going on there. And I'm glad that we got the Kaiser grant. Congratulations on that.
that is very, very nice. That will help our students, I'm sure, at those schools. I know the diversity at that school, those schools, so that's all I have. And good luck to Mr. Schaefer and Mr. Garcia tomorrow. Both of you are running for office, so one of you will be up here next board meeting, or here, you can put up your next board meeting.
All right, Mr. Schaefer.
I was going to say to Mr. Dombrowski, you can walk, you don't have to run to do anything for us. The issues that Ms. Houdin brought up concerning the head lice at Glen Avon, is there a infestation? Is there a reoccurrence of this? I know we're following CDC guidelines, but can we vary those guidelines? And if parents are having difficulty getting rid of this head lice, do we have instructions for them? I don't know what happens in this case, so if you could inform us in Friday letter, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, we can send you a copy of the protocol. To my knowledge, we're not having reinfestations. We are actually going beyond the protocol from CDC. And I'm not sure about this, but I think we do have product available for parents who can't afford it. But I will give you a full report.
Okay. Also, I appreciate the math lesson. I was very good at math. I had a little issue. You teach a dog new tricks. I probably could learn this after a couple weeks of instruction, but it makes more sense. It seems like it will probably improve our student proficiency. So even though we hear a lot about Common Core math, what's happening with Common Core, it's good to see it in practical terms so we understand it. Sometimes there's a lot of noise out there, but from what we saw tonight, I really appreciate the demonstration. Also, hopefully you all vote tomorrow. Besides the position on this board, there are many important issues on the ballot. One being EE and all the other measures concerning California. So I understand it's going to be a light turnout, but hopefully EE passes. And I will say that. I'm not afraid to say it. And I did put some signs up for EE. Thank you, Paula. But hopefully everyone exercises their right to vote because there are so many important issues facing us and our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mendez.
Thank you. First of all, I was happy to see us receive that $100,000 from Kaiser Foundation Hospital for another important issue in our district in terms of maintaining the health of our students. That's really great to see. I also have a report on the DLAC meeting that I attended last week. And once again, my best to Martha Gomez and Esther. Ask you and Yosemite Guzman, the ladies who really make it happen. I mean, the DLAC meetings are really, the parents are enthusiastic, they participate, they're actively involved. And we had probably about 60 people, I think, there that day. I mean, there's really a good turnout, so it's really good to see our parents in the community become involved. The topics they addressed were the report cards, and there were some questions about that as well, just like we heard here tonight. But I think they explained it very well to them in terms of, again, what you were saying, that it's not a typical report card, and we have to sort of find a way to communicate that to everyone, that it's a different type of rating system, and it has a whole different purpose than the old ABC report cards that we were used to. They also gave some information on the reclassification procedure and the state seal of biliteracy, and as we continue to grow our bilingual programs in the district, we'll continue to see more of our students earning those seals on their diplomas upon graduation, so it's really good to see that program continue. Also have a comment on, in terms of head lice, that's a manageable thing in our schools and anywhere else. If we follow the appropriate protocols and procedures that we have in place, we're sure that that will not become a problem in our schools. And the second thing is that, like Mr. Schaefer or Mr. Duchamp said, to my knowledge, all the way back from the time when I was a principal, we have always had supplies available for parents who cannot afford to have the treatment needed to have taken care of. And I'm sure that continues to this day. And lastly, I want to, just go ahead and remind everybody to go out and vote tomorrow. I put my voting tag to remind me, so I'll be there. And I agree with Mr. Schaefer that Measure E is really important for our district because our students deserve to have better facilities, better instructional environments, and just better opportunities to succeed in life. And we can do that with those resources. So I definitely will be there tomorrow to vote, and I hope to see you there.
I'll be there with you, Mr. Mendez. And Mr. Schaefer.
All right. I'd like to thank the business office for the computers because some of the districts I'm working in are still using XP computers that are crashing and that, and we're very proactive on that. And I thank you for the students because I know how difficult it is for the students I work with to work with the outdated equipment. And we are spending a lot of money on it, but it is a very necessary thing, part of education these days, and I'm sure it will continue on in some form or another to be computers, whether it's as they get smaller and smaller, or if we end up going back to larger just because smaller causes more problems at times. Diverting math, I know working with the kids that I do, a lot of the wording is changing. I think that's where parents and teachers are frustrated. I was working with middle schoolers and positive and negative numbers, and there's no minus sign anymore when you're working with that. It's a negative. So getting that into your mindset and able to explain it using the correct verbiage so that when the kids take the test, that they'll understand what the test is asking them. It takes all of us time. With any turnover in education, it always takes time to learn the new lingo. People that are as old or a little bit older than me will remember when we were in elementary school, the grading was G's, S's, and N's. No percentages, no A's, B's, and C's. It was if you were above average, it was a G. If you were satisfactory, it was proficient, and N was needs to improve. So in education, as always, everything comes back to where it once was. It's just getting the community to understand each time it goes back around what the outcomes are expected for that. Remind everybody, I know I'm speaking to the choir, to go out and vote tomorrow and let your voice be heard. And with that, we will conclude tonight's meeting.